You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcox. Good of you to join us tonight. For tonight's show, doing some research, uncovered a couple of mysteries, and we'll get into the mysteries in a few minutes, but I just want to give a couple shout-outs and thank yous to some folks. Bob Merritt and his daughter Robin were helping today with trying to nail down some of these mysteries, and again, we'll talk about those in more detail in a minute, but had a couple properties that evolved from pictures, and so we were trying to find out exactly where they were. I think we may have located one of them. In fact, I think we located both of them. But in any case, I just want to say a big thank you to Bob and Robin for helping sort out some of this stuff. And I also had the unexpected pleasure today of meeting Miss Eamon Edwards. Many of you may know her, but her husband, long since deceased, I understand, was one of the original Edwards family members that run the George S. Edwards store down on Marigo Street. And those that watch the show regularly, you know we've talked about that store many times in previous shows. In fact, just last week we mentioned it. I think the week before that too, it came up in conversation. It's down on the corner of South Main and Marigold Street, kind of across from the old City Lunch building down there. But Miss Eamon Edwards was actually, she stopped by my shop today with another lady who come to visit, and we had a nice chat about the store and her family history there. She's going to try to find some pictures. She's not sure she's got any. She's going to look through some old family photo albums. I'm not sure, and I don't want to guess incorrectly here, but I seem to recall being told that Miss Edwards is in her 90s, so she's been around a long time and got a lot of memories, and still sharp as a tack, I might add. It was nice talking with her today. On a side note, I'll tell you, I pulled up to the stoplight outside of the entrance to the college here the night, come on the way to the studio, and I heard this bizarre noise. I couldn't figure out what it was. I rolled the window down, and finally it hit me. The July flies are out. If you don't believe it, step outside your door. It's almost deafening out there tonight. And walking across the parking lot from the car into the studio tonight, too, I couldn't believe how loud they were. So whether you call them a July fly or a cicada, them great big old fly-looking things that stick on the side of trees, when you see sticking on the side of trees, they're out in force, and they must be mating to beat the band because they're sure making an awful lot of racket tonight. As I said, we had a couple of mysteries revolving around a couple houses, and we're going to get into those in a minute. This week, we really don't have any particular format other than when we get into some pictures I ran across of the old Brownsville Plantation Barbecue. I thought that was neat. We mentioned that on a show 3 or 4 months back maybe now, but I stumbled across some neat pictures today that really, I will say, took me back. This is way before my time. This is from the 1940s. But it brought back some fond memories I have because it was all set obviously around a farm, and so when we get into those pictures, you'll see what I'm talking about. The first picture, Lee, I don't know if you've got them queued up yet. The first picture was just one I happened to stumble across, and it was actually on one of these sites that I go to. This old building right here is down on South Main Street. The address back when I found it was actually listed as 445 Southeast Main Street. The building is still standing, by the way, and for the life of me, I cannot remember. I do remember I think this building has come up in the past. I want to say we have addressed this building in a prior show, and I think someone remembered there being a business in there. But just kind of give you some perspective, this is on the east side of the railroad tracks down South Main, not too far. Let me turn my phone on low volume here. We got a call. Let's see what this is. Hello there, you on the air?
All right, I'll tell you exactly who that building belonged to.
All right, lay it on me.
The man that owned that building was Mr. J.W. Garner, that owned the Bluebird taxi cab stand down there next to the City Lunch.
Okay.
He had a son named Jimmy Garner that finished high school with me in 1962. and that was a commercial garage, automotive garage, and his taxi cabs were worked on in that building, and that's what that building is. And when I was in high school and through my schooling years, that building was a red brick building, but the color of it has changed many years ago.
Well, hold that thought right there. Lee, if you would go ahead and bring the next picture up, because I think this is what, there you go. That's the picture. That was the most recent one I found online. And Lee, you can go ahead and hit the next picture too, because there's two of these that are just different. There you go. One interesting thing about this building, Eric, is that in the first picture I found, it was actually listed as 445 Southeast Main Street. But by the time it got to this business right here, and it's Rocky Mount Iron Works is what it's called now. At least that's what the sign out front said. I'm not sure how old this picture is.
Maybe I've missed a signal about that, but that first building you just showed looked like a place that was just about underneath the overpass on the Edgecombe side.
It's the same building. It's the same building.
I think so.
It is. But now the address of this is actually listed now as 100 Edgecombe Street. That street to the right there, running along the side of the building, is Edgecombe Street, and now on the side of the building, I should say, it's got 100. So now they I don't know why they did that, but they changed the address from 445 Southeast Main Street to 100 Edgecombe Street.
Well, post office in the city does things sometimes unusual.
They did indeed. Okay, buddy, thanks for the information. I appreciate you here. All right. But yeah, I thought that was neat that the building was for many, many years, and I didn't go back to see how far back it went. Eric just said it was he ran from his high school days, so certainly back in the 50s, I suspect it may even go back further than that. But in any case, at least it looks like if it's still open. I haven't been down there. I found this picture online, and I think it was dated like 13 or 14 maybe, fairly recent. But it was listed then as 100 Edgecombe Street. Same building, just a different address over time. So, okay. All right, this next picture, Lee, you go ahead and pull it up. We got a call. Let's get this call here. Hello there, you're on the air.
All right, that building goes back a long time before my high school days of the 60s. When I was a student at Glenwood Hall in the first grade in 1949, the Bluebird taxi cab people is who picked us up and carried us to and from Glenwood Hall about 1950. And that building was there. It was a maintenance. It wasn't just for Bluebird taxi cabs. They did auto mechanic work on other people's stuff, but the fleet of taxi cabs that the Bluebird taxi cab organization had, they were worked on in that place also.
So you're thinking it dates to the 40s then, perhaps, if not earlier.
The cab stand was down there on the Edgecombe side of the tracks, right there next to the city lunch.
Right.
All right.
Right. Okay, buddy. Thanks again. All righty. Okay. This next picture is just one that caught my eye today. As I said, I was just browsing through old pics on the internet, and this was a home over in Edgecombe County that was identified as Bracebridge Hall, and it was actually the home of prior North Carolina Governor Elias Carr. I'm not sure when he lived there. I'm not even sure if he built the house, and I'm not exactly sure where it is. Maybe someone more familiar with the Tarboro, Edgecombe side of the country would know more about this. But it's obviously an older house. I think it was built like 1905, 1910, somewhere along in there. It was a grand old home at one time. I'm not even sure if it's still standing, but this picture just jumped out at me. I just love these old houses and the old architecture and the way they were constructed back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And so I shared it because I thought it was a neat picture. So anyway, all right, next on the list, Lee, this is actually, it's a PDF. Okay, there we go. This is, I mentioned earlier about the Brownsville Plantation Barbecue. This was from a collection. It's about, 14 or 15 pictures in this collection. And this was from 1944, September of 1944. And Bob Merritt was giving me some information today. And Bob, feel free to call in and add to this story, because I'm going to kind of give an overview. But from what Bob was telling me today, It was kind of a little bit of a friendly competition, if you will. They would go around periodically and to the farmers in the area, and I guess would check the pantries with their permission, of course, and see who had done the most canning of different fruits and vegetables and things after the harvest. Then they have a big, like a big cookout, if you will. And so this was on the Brazel farm, Brazel plantation, and that was part of the mystery today, because I was kind of trying to nail down exactly where the Brazel plantation was. So I called Bob, and his first response was, well, which part of the 20,000 acres are you talking about? And then it dawned on me that in a prior show some time back, in fact, Bob had actually sent me a print-off that he had found somewhere online, I think, and it was a breakdown of all of the land that the Brazel family had owned. Okay, this was something, too, that was kind of neat, because some of you may instantly remember this home right here. This was in the Our State magazine from 1943, and this house is identified as the James Battle home on the Brazel plantation. The thing is, this house is actually the Dortch home in Dorches. Many of you in that area will remember it as the John F. Griffin home place. That's what I first heard it described as. And for many years, it was the home of Mr. John F. Griffin in Dorches. But of course, it is the same house that William Dortch built in the late 1700s, 1790, 1800, somewhere along in there. And so that was a mystery. I said, how did this house that we know was built by William Dortch and for many, many generations was occupied by a member of several generations, from what I hear, of Mr. John F. Griffin, but yet somehow or another in the Our State magazine in 1943, it was identified as the home on the Brazel plantation. So we're not sure. That's still a bit of a mystery right there. We're thinking that perhaps it's possible that the Brazels could have owned it in a time slot either before or after Mr. John F. Griffin's family had it. I don't know that for sure. And it's also possible that this was just a mistake. A picture was put in here into the magazine erroneously. But again, this was the November 27th issue in 1943 of the Our State magazine. And it says here is listed, it says it was built in 1790, and of course that is the time that was generally given for the Dortch house up there at Dorch's, old John F. Griffin home place, to have been built. But anyway, there's a nice little write-up about the home in the Our State magazine in this 1943 issue. And so I'm going to have to do some more digging on this to find out if in fact this was ever referred to as the Brazel plantation. It very well could have been because the Brazels owned land in Halifax County, Nash County, Edgecombe County, I believe perhaps even over in Franklin County. We got a call. Let's get this call here. Hello there, you on the air?
Randy.
Yes, sir.
I was talking to Bob Chandler, the retired lawyer from Rocky Mount today, and I found that T.P. Brazel, Thomas Pimento Brazel, who was Mac Brazel's father, lived out on the Battleboro Avenue, going toward Gold Rock from the main street, the big white house on the left where Johnny High lives now. And that house looks somewhat familiar, so it might be that house that looks so much like the other one.
Now, and tell me again where that house is you're talking about?
Okay, if you go out, turn left coming from Rocky Mount, go out Battleboro Avenue to Main Street.
Okay.
You go out past the substation, and before you get to NC4, there's a big white house on the left.
Okay.
It's 1000 Battleboro Avenue, I think it is.
Okay.
That's where Johnny High lives, and Mr. T.P. Brazel used to live there. That was his home, and when he died, Rusty Holderness's mother was a Brazel and married to Mr. Holderness, who was president of Carolina Telephone Telegraph when it was in Tarboro. And Rusty got it, and he sold it to Mr. John High, and now Johnny lives on that farm.
Okay, so you're saying this could indeed be a different house than the one at Dorch's then?
Well, it could be, yes.
Okay.
I haven't looked at it at the front, but he's done extensive renovations on it, so I'm sure it doesn't look like that now, but it's one of those things you pass, but you don't really look at it that close.
Well, you know, it's funny, because today, doing some errands and running around after you and I spoke on the phone, I actually had the opportunity to ride by the old Dorch place, or the John Griffin home place up there, and take a good look at it. Mr. Coates, Tony Coates, is working on that house steadily. He's cutting the grass today, in fact. He tells me he intends to move in that house. He has arranged to buy it from the owners and some of the heirs of Mr. Griffin, I understand. But anyway, long story short, I took a good hard look, and to tell you the truth, that house does look identical to this one. That could have been that the same architect built both houses, so it may very well be a different house.
I'm not saying that it wasn't that house, because I identified it to you as that same house, as the Dorch house.
Right.
But when I found out about the T.P. Brazel lived out at the house that Johnny High lives in at one time, then that could have been about the same architect.
That's what I'm thinking, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to ride out there and see if I can get another thing too that was interesting. You mentioned this today too. Mentioned it, and I saw it too. There's that old wrought iron fence that goes around the front yard of this house. Is the exact same wrought iron fence. At least it looks to be the same anyway as the one around the Dorch house. So, I guess it is possible that the same architecture and everything to do with one house was duplicated in the other. That's something that we're interested to compare the two.
Yes,
but
there's not a fence around Johnny's house that I know of. I've never seen one there.
Not anymore, anyway?
No, not now.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I thank you for calling and sharing that with us.
Hey. Good night.
All right, buddy. Thanks again. Okay. So the bottom line here is there's still a mystery abounding here. And I promise between now and next week's show, I'm going to try to do a little more digging and just see what I can come up with. We got another call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you're on the air.
All right, this is Eric. Let me correct something that I told you a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Correct about Mr. Garner that owned that garage on the Edgecombe side of the tracks. His name was James T. Garner, not James W. Garner.
Okay.
That man had a son named Jimmy Garner that went to high school with me in the class of 1962 at Rocky Mountain Senior High. I just thought about that, and I gave you the wrong middle initial on that person's name.
Well, I thank you for calling and correcting that. That was fine though, but I put it in my notes. Thank you, buddy. All right. Okay, I tell you what, Lee. I think that's we're as close as we're going to get to a good time to take a commercial break. So let's go ahead and take a first break here. When we come back, we've got a lot more pictures to share with you. There's another mystery abounding too. We'll get into the second mystery here when we come back from the break. But in the meantime, folks, we'll get yourselves a nice something cool to drink if you need one, a bathroom break maybe, and hurry on back. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornstalk Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern. We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
And we're back. Folks, for just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcox. Good to have you with us. Before the break, we were talking about the couple old houses, in fact, that may be one and the same. We're not quite sure yet. And I want to correct something I said earlier in reference to this house that's now being known as the Dortch House or the John F. Griffin House. I think I said earlier that it was referenced as being the James Battle House, and that's another house entirely. We'll get to that in a minute. In this Our State magazine issue from 1943, it's actually referenced as being Tom Pearsall's house. So I'm not sure, again, whether this is a wrong picture with the article or the wrong person's name attributed to it, but in any case, I will find out if I can between now and next week's show and try to get us a good, firm answer on that. We were looking at, I think we'd got into the Brazel picnic pictures. So, Lee, if you would, let's jump back on those. I'm not sure exactly where, I think we left off at the very first one, which was, it was several actually, I can't remember. Okay, yeah, here we go. But as I said earlier, this event, from what I gathered talking to Bob today, was kind of a friendly competition, if you will, where all the farmers in the area would kind of open up their pantries and say, okay, look what I have been able to can this year, and they would compare notes and see who'd put away the most, corn and beans and peas and tomatoes and cucumbers and everything that was typically canned and put away after the harvest. And so then they had a big party, and it just so happens that this big party was on the Brazel plantation, and I'd seen a reference to it, in fact, and I meant to bring it, I forgot to, but on a prior show, I had seen it wasn't a program, it was like a flyer, a printed off flyer, and it kind of gave an overview of who was kind of heading up everything, and I think Tom Pearsall, in fact, name was mentioned in it, and a few others. But anyway, at that time, we didn't have any pictures, and so I was pleasantly surprised as I was getting ready for this week's show that I stumbled across this collection on one of the online archives, digital archives, and these are some of the pictures that I pulled from that archive to share with you tonight. And again, I'm not exactly sure where this took place. Somewhere among the 20,000 acres of the Brazel plantation is the only thing we know for sure. But obviously you can see that must be a 75, 100 foot long table there set out for people to eat. And you can go ahead and lead to the next picture. And I think what we're going to see here is this, a lot of them came on horse and buggy. That was one of the things that was mentioned in this picture. Didn't see any evidence or any mention of automobiles. Like everybody who came either walked to the event or rode on a horse and buggy. It was almost like a step back in time itself. Obviously, 1943, automobiles were in existence, but this was kind of like an old-timey gathering, and I just thought that was a neat thing to do. Everyone either came to the thing on a horse and buggy or rode a horse or a mule probably. I'm sure there were probably some who walked to it as well. But it kind of reminded me a little bit, and I mentioned this to Bob Merritt today. When I was a child, my grandparents lived out on what's now Red Oak Battleboro Road, and I don't know, about a half a mile or so just south of Highway 4, where Highway 4 cuts over between US 301 and Interstate 95, that section of Red Oak Battleboro Road. And I have some very distinct, very fond memories of walking with my grandmother down the side of Red Oak Battleboro Road down to what we used to refer to as Brazel's Pond. And it's now the back part, I guess, of Belmont and that area back up in there. But I remember there being an old cabin back up in there, and They used to have, Bob was telling me they used to have meetings out there. They would have farmer meetings where they'd have a representative from either an agricultural company or a chemical company or somebody associated with farming would come out. They'd bring all the farmers out. They'd have a little meeting and a feed. And back in, must have been 1976, 75, somewhere along there, maybe 77, I was in the Battleboro JCs, and we had what we called a spring fling, and it was held back there on the lake in that area, what we called Brazos Pond at the time. And I remember a lot of standing pine trees back there, and when I saw this picture, it kind of reminded me of the area around Brazos Pond. Not suggesting that it is, I have no idea where this was, but it just reminded me of that area back there. But it used to be a place people would go swimming, they certainly go fishing, and as I said, had all kind of gatherings. But this just reminded me of a step back in time. In 1943, these folks were stepping back in time 50 or 75 years almost, if you think about no automobiles, only horse and buggies. Okay, let's go to the next picture. Some of these are just really neat. Here we go, Pit Cook Barbecue. Obviously, they dug a pit and they put literally sticks, limbs across the pit, laid the hog out across the sticks and cooked the hog, laid over an open pit like that, laying on sticks. And first thought I had was, why didn't the stick catch on fire and burn? And then I remembered back from my Boy Scout days, you can actually cook like this, and the drippings and the grease from the meat will keep the wood from catching fire and burning through. And so, but this was, you can see how long this looks to be, maybe 25 or 30 feet here, and I'm guessing there's probably 7 or 8 hogs up there. So this was a big feed. This was a big event. Lots of folks attended, and so this appears to be up under a shelter, obviously, pole barn adjacent to a tobacco grind building there. But in any case, this was a big event, as evidenced by the number of hogs that were cooking and the number of people that were there. All right, let's go to the next picture then. Like I said, it's about 13 or 14 of these pictures. We're going to go through them all and just kind of reminisce a bit about some good old bygone days. This is just another angle, again, from under the same shelter, and you can see, I was guessing earlier 7 or 8 hogs, maybe a bit more than that, but certainly, and this was a big effort to dig this trench out. I would guess this trench stayed open all the time. I can't imagine them digging this out every year for this event, so I'm guessing they dug that trench and it just stayed open. And I guess they would shovel the coals in there periodically. The gentleman on the left there has got a shovel in his hand, and I'm guessing he's feeding coals into it as need be. But this is just something you don't see anymore. These kind of events don't take place, to my knowledge anyway, and certainly they don't cook pigs like this anymore. So again, it's a step back in time. All right, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. This is someone cooking, I'm guessing either boiled potatoes or Brunswick stew. Could be any number of things actually, but certainly in these types of events, Brunswick stew was a often served meal or menu item, and as well as boiled potatoes. And I noticed too, if you look in the background there, there's some standing water back there. So this was obviously in the fall of the years when they had these kinds of events, and it had some rain, or perhaps, I don't know, that could have been snow too. It looked like water to me though. I'm guessing that was standing water back there from a recent rain. But anyway, okay, Lee, let's go to the next one then. And this appears to be them chopping barbecue here. And so the gentleman on the left there has got the meat cleaver in his hand, and he's chopping the barbecue, and I guess they'll rake it over into that big, looks like a peach basket there at the end of the table there where they're raking the meat into after it's chopped up. But don't you know there was some good barbecue there, cooked on an open pit like that. All right, let's get this call here. Oh, I missed your call. Okay, try again. I'm not sure what happened there. We lost you though. All right, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And this, and I'm not sure about this, a couple things I wanted to point about this picture here that really kind of made me smile. If you notice up on the wagon up there on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a bunch of fellows, we got this call, let's get this call. Well, I'm not sure what's happening here. The light's blinking, but there's no one there when I hit the answer button. So I do apologize if you're trying to get on. We're not connecting for whatever reason. So try again. But anyway, up there on the wagon, there is a band, if you will. See a saxophone player, there's a trombone player up there, and so I'm not sure where these guys came from, obviously, but they came to entertain the crowd. And the lady down here in the forefront of the photograph has actually got a bunch of canned goods, obviously. So I'm thinking maybe that she's either selling those, or she may be, I'm not sure she's giving them away. I would guess maybe selling them, but in any case, it could be some kind of competition too. They could be having like a Mayberry best cucumber competition here and having judges. I'm not sure, but it was a neat old photograph again. It just kind of reminded me of bygone days, and I just thought it was something neat to share. And again, this is something you just don't see anymore. So, all right, Lee, I'll tell you what, let's go to the next picture then. And this next one, I think, is, here we go. If you remember earlier, we saw the table, and now the folks have seated and began eating, and it looks to be 50, 75 people. I didn't try to count them, but you can see that's a long table, and there's a lot of folks sat down, and they're enjoying a good meal of chopped barbecue and probably some boiled potatoes. I would guess some coleslaw was out there too, and so it looks like a good time to be had by all. My phone is blinking. Let me see if there's anybody on the line here. Hello there, you on the air?
Randy,
Yes, sir.
that picture was probably some of the entries that the different families from the farm had put in to be graded and given blue ribbons and so forth.
That's what I was thinking too. Remind me of an old episode of the Andy Griffith Show where they were judging the cucumbers. Remember that episode of Andy Griffith?
Right. And then that lady bending over could very well be your great aunt, Mama Lee.
You know, she could be. She very well could
She
be.
worked with Brazel, and in the 40s, they put in a cannery behind the stores.
Uh-huh.
And they canned in tin cans, and they had to bring all the people from the farm in. They'd bring the raw produce in, can it, cook it in the can, and so forth. And she ran that place.
And where was that at again?
Right behind Fisher's store. You remember where that was?
Fisher's Store. I'm drawing a blank. Help me out.
Hey, right. Well, you know the Main Street and the line of stores along there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you turn right beside the railroad track going south,
Okay.
and they had a community building there that was owned by Brazel Company.
Okay.
And they put a cannery on the end. They had these big pots, and they had steam to cook them and so forth, and they produced thousands of cans of fruit and vegetables and things for the farm people, you know, not for the public. But
Okay. And so, did they sell them, or was just the farmers
they were canning them for their own use.
Ah. Okay.
And it ran for probably 6 or 7 years, probably from maybe 42 to 48 or 49, 50, somewhere along in there.
No kidding. Well, I never knew that. So it was actually on that road that runs parallel to the railroad track then, right?
Yeah, it was behind the stores. They had a wooden building similar to the community building that the city of Rocky Mount took down a few weeks ago.
Right.
And our Boy Scouts used to meet in there when I was in the Boy Scouts.
How about that?
They added a shelter on the back, and after it closed up, the fire department took the big pots, took them up to the fire department, and we used them. We peeled potatoes and kept them in water so they wouldn't turn black when we had our big fire meals once a year.
Right. Uh-huh. Well, that's neat. Do you remember that there was a pond at the end of that road you're talking about next to the railroad track? I've been fishing down there. I don't know if it's still there or not, but if you...
Well, that was... All I remember down there was Odom's Canal.
Well, maybe that's what I'm thinking about, but I've fished in it.
Yeah, I used to go down and fish in it, too. They had a little trestle across it.
Yeah, it was called Odom's Canal.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, there you go. I never knew it had a name. Okay, buddy. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, there you go. See that? You watch this show, you learn something every week. Never fails. Never fails. Odom's Canal. Who'd have thought? Okay. Lee, go back just for a second, if you would, that prior picture. Bob's got my curiosity up now because I didn't realize that my great aunt, Mama Lee Price was her name. We called her Aunt Bumpsy. I'm not sure where she got that nickname from, but that very well could be Aunt Bumpsy right there on the right-hand side of the picture there. It actually looks like her from the back. It sure does. I don't know if that's her. There was no identification of any of these people in any of these pictures, but it's very possible that could very well be my Aunt Mama Lee Price. So how about that? Okay, Lee, let's go ahead then. And I think there's a few more in this segment, so we'll kind of go ahead through these. Obviously, these guys appear to be peeling potatoes here, and again, these pictures were not in any particular order. I guess I should have tried to do that before I put them on the list tonight, because we got folks peeling potatoes after they've already sat down and eat. But anyway, this would have come before they sat down and eaten. But in any case, and you know, one thing that struck me about these pictures, this was obviously a gathering of farmers, black and white, and there was no segregation. There was no white table, no black table. And in 1943, that's significant, because this is prior to the desegregation and separating and so forth. It's entirely possible that most of these black folks you see here had to drink out of a black-only water fountain, perhaps even had to sit at the back of the bus, those kind of things. But here they are all mingling, black and white. And that's just it's a testament to how everyone got along, the farmers, and many of these I'm sure are hired hands or hired help, but it was just something that I thought was neat, that there was such getting along, camaraderie, if you will. So, okay, I'll tell you what, let's go to the next picture then. And again, this is cooking under that same shelter, just on the right-hand side, the very edge of the picture. You can see the pit where the hogs were laid across the sticks there to be cooked. And again, those 4 pots there. Not sure what they were cooking in those pots. As I said earlier, it could be boiled potatoes, could be Brunswick stew. I suppose it could have been something else too. But in any case, that old pole barn there was getting a workout this day. And from what I gather, this appeared to be something that was done on a regular basis, I'm guessing every year. As I said, these were all dated 1944. It was in one collection, and they were all identified as Brownsville Plantation Barbecue, September 1944. So, anyway, okay, Lee, let's go ahead then to the next set of pictures, or next picture, I mean. I can't make out what that says there on that bag. There's 100 pounds of it, whatever it is. But in any case, it looked like potatoes. Maybe it is potato. Maybe it's a 100-pound bag of potatoes. And I'm just guessing. That could be Mr. Pearsall right there, Tom Pearsall, standing up there. If anyone recognizes him, call, let me know. But in any case, again, this is more prep for the event. Just getting ready to cook some potatoes there. Okay, Lee, let's go ahead into the next one. And there's another shot of the hogs being cooked. You see also another thing about this picture. If you'll notice at the very end, there's like a fireplace there, and the little door, the door is open now. And so I'm guessing that's where they fired their coals up to put in these pits to cook these hogs. I guess they would throw the logs in there and get a good fire going, and as the coals burned down and got hot coals, and they could shovel them out and then go drop them down in the pit as needed to keep the hogs cooking as the day wore on. But that's a long process to cook a hog, and to cook as many as they're cooking here, I'm guessing they probably started this early in the morning, and this event probably took place later in the afternoon. Let's get this call here. Hello there, you on the air?
All right, that hole in that brick wall right there would have been a tobacco barn.
Mm-hmm.
Tobacco would have been cured by wood.
Right.
And they were using that same fire pit that would be used to cure tobacco to get and generate coals, oak, hardwood coals, to cook those pigs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
There would probably been, I don't know when the transition started happening between the gas tobacco burners and whatever, but for many years they always cured tobacco with wood, and that hole in that masonry wall right there,
mm-hmm.
where the fire would have been to cure the tobacco in the barn.
Right. Yeah, there was the farm my grandparents farmed out from Battleboro had one of them old tile barns like that. Those were tiles, not brick.
Terracotta.
There you go. That's what I couldn't think of the word. That's it.
Terracotta Tile
Mm-hmm.
was a building practice to put together tobacco barns, and that's the way it was. But pigs cooked like that right there over white oak coals, it cannot be cooked any better.
I'd love to have some. I would sure love to have some. I bet it was delicious.
All right.
All right, buddy. Thanks again here.
All right.
All right. Lee, I'll tell you what. I think we're at a good enough time to take a quick commercial. Well, let's get this call first. Got one more call. Hello there. You on the air? Hey, Bob?
Yeah.
I got you, buddy. What's going on?
Well, I was just going to point out that those are furnaces used for curing tobacco, not for making coals. They
Right.
might have used them for that, but at that time they were curing with wood, and those furnaces, you notice they had two. There's one behind that other guy over there,
Right.
and they would put poles in there and then close it up and adjust the air to get the right temperatures.
Yeah, and you know,
Tobacco.
right, and my daddy had told me in years past about my granddaddy putting sweet potatoes in there, bags of sweet potatoes in there. And
I'm sure you could.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you stored them in
They're
there.
the furnaces that they use for curing tobacco. Is what
Right. Yep.
they were for.
Uh-huh.
Might have used them for the coals.
Right. Okay, buddy. All right. Thanks again. We'll see you. Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead, Lee, and take our next commercial break. Folks, when we come back, we've got a few more pictures to show you. We'll take your call. We'll talk some more about old times and Rocky Mountain area. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
By Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornstalk Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service, we offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornstalk Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mountain area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Join us. You're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcox. We've been talking about and showing some pictures of the old Brownsville Plantation barbecue. This just warms my soul to look at these old pictures. I've said before, each week when I'm researching this show, I spend a fair amount of time, 2 to 3 hours on average, most of it online, looking at old archives and digital collections of pictures from not only Rocky Mount, but Edgecombe County, Nash County, Eastern North Carolina. And it's just a neat way to spend time. Today, I wish I could have shared more of the pictures I saw. They just didn't apply to this immediate area. But there's a multitude of old houses, old buildings, old structures on the internet and some of these digital archives. Some are from North Carolina, a good many of them are in fact, but they're from other parts of the country too, especially the North Carolina mountains. I stumbled across a group of pictures today that there must be 150 pictures in that collection. Some of the most beautiful pictures you've ever seen that were taken back in the 1920s and 30s. In fact, some of them date back to the early 1900s, 1905, 1910. And it was at a time before much of the development took place in the major cities in the mountains. And it's a step back in time, if you will. Look at these old pictures and see how the folks live and how they made do with what they had, particularly in some of these rural areas where they just didn't have access to a lot of the conveniences that were considered modern at the turn of the century. So anyway, I tell you what, Lee, let's jump back in these pictures. A couple more I want to get through before we get to the next mystery. I mentioned to you earlier about another mystery, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But okay, I think we were looking at that one when we finished up before the break. So let's go to the next one, Lee. And I've kind of lost track of where I'm at in my set. All right, that's just another picture of them peeling potatoes, obviously. So I think that may be a copy of a picture we saw earlier. But you can go ahead, Lee, and go on past that one too. There you go. And these are obviously like potatoes there too. Sure do. Lots of potatoes. This little fella here, I think he had a belly full and was just tired and ready to take a nap, and he found him a good tree to lean up against. And I think his next move was probably catch a few winks and digest his barbecue and think about things other than eating for a while. But he got him a good spot there. All right, we got a call. Let's get this call here. Hello there, you on the air?
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Hey, Harold, good, buddy. How you?
With advisors like you have with Eric and Bob, you can't get any better than that. They're right on the mark. I remember those old furnace when I was about 7 years old or so. They were nice and warm. Had a nice little place to sleep.
Yeah.
My parents were taking out that tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
But the barbecues did go along in those days, I think, with the tobacco barns, with the coals, and those old furnaces. And as Eric said, I believe the wood they had to have.
Right.
Always preferred anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Probably had a few cords left over from the
drying of tobacco?
queuing season there, and it was the time of the year when money began to stir a little bit in the community, and
right.
an appreciation of all the hard work that had been put in. There was a lot of celebrations along about that time of the year.
Absolutely.
Remember when they got all the tobacco in.
Yeah, and you're right.
Elders were used for a lot of things.
For a lot of these rural economies, they didn't have any money to speak of until the crops were harvested and the end of the season had come and gone. And like you said, that's when there was some money free enough to flow around a bit and spend some money. Sure was.
That made the difference in those days.
Absolutely.
Well, keep up the good work.
All right, buddy. Thank you here. All right. Okay, so Lee, let's jump back in. I think we've got this next one. I think that may have been the last one in the Brazel plantation. Okay, here we are. At the top of the show, I mentioned this house here, and this is the one, as I said, it's identified on this 1943 Our State magazine as being the Brazel plantation home place. It even makes a reference to Tom Pearsall. And I'm gonna, here you go, you see house on Brazel plantation, built in 1790. And again, it is entirely possible that the same architect who built the old Dorch home, or John F. Griffin home in Dorches, built this house as well. That wrought iron fence you see there is still in place there at the Dorch house, or the Mr. Griffin house. So I'm going to try to get out there on the property that Bob mentioned earlier, where Mr. Johnny Hyde lives now, see if I can get some pictures of the house and try to compare the two. And I'll try to do a little more research. But and this picture obviously got out of place in the sequence of things, and I do apologize for that. All right, Lee, let's go then to the next picture, because this is the other mystery I was telling you about. This house right here was identified in the photograph as being the James Battle home, built around 1800, it says. It says only one of two surviving gambrel, and that's Gambrel, gambrel roof houses in the county. I'm guessing that's that barn-looking structure where you've got coming off the pitch of the roof at the top, it comes down at a bit of an angle, then it comes out another angle. I've never seen that word before, but I'm guessing that's what it's referring to, that gambrel roof. But in any case, it says that in 1884, the first commercially grown tobacco in the country was grown here in Nash County, North Carolina. I'd never heard that before. And it may have been that tobacco was grown in other places, but this was talking about the first commercially grown tobacco in the country was grown right here in Nash County. So I set out to find this house today on the internet. I went to looking, and I called Bob and got him looking, and he got Rob and his daughter in the loop, and they were looking. And so we have literally scoured a good portion of Nash County through some books that Bob had and some online searches I did. Lee, let's go to the next picture, and I want to show you. This is the last good picture that was taken of the house, and this was taken in 1936. Now that's obviously an old picture, but in 1936, this house was still being occupied. In fact, if you look on the right-hand side of your screen there near the bottom, on the porch, there's someone standing there. On the online picture, you can actually zoom in. You can't make out who it is, obviously, but there's someone there. There's an old hound dog laying in the dirt there at the bottom of on the porch, right there at the foot of the porch, I should say. But it's just a neat old house here, and so it kind of got me looking. I said, well, I'm going to see if I can find this old house. And I found another picture that was actually taken somewhat later. And Lee, you can show that picture next. And let's see, there you go. Now, this was the same house. You still see the old, I think it's referred to as a gambrel roof. Like a barn type structure. A couple interesting things about this house. Number one, the chimney being on what would essentially be the end. If you think about most houses, that would be the end of the house where the chimney is. But and then there's an overhanging porch there. But as you can see in this picture, it's really, really grown up. And this was taken, I think, 2010. I believe I saw identified in this picture here. So, you know, this is at least 10 years old. This picture here is at least 10 years old. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure that the structure is still standing. But between the efforts of Bob and Robin and some online search I did, we think we may have found where this was. And if you go out Macedonia Road, which is out south of Rocky Mount, out past Taylor's Crossroads out there, there is, Bob sent me a map, and I didn't get a chance to get a picture of the map, but I put it online too, but I do have it. But I was able to track down an old house, and I actually found a Google image of it. I didn't get a chance because this was the very last thing I was doing before I left coming to the studio tonight. But I think I have found this house, and I'm going to try to ride out there either tomorrow or Friday and see if it is indeed the same house. It's grown up, it's wooded all the way around, but you can still make the outline of the house through the woods, and it's visible online. So if it's the same house, and I'm not certain that it is, but if it is, I will have some pictures of this house or what's left of it for next week's show. But this house was identified as being built around 1800 for James Battle. I'm not sure exactly who that was, but if you may remember in a prior show we talked about, there was a James Battle who was an attorney in the area in the early 1800s. And he actually developed a fair amount of fame and notoriety for representing a slave who had murdered or killed I won't say his master, was a foreman, a farm foreman. And some kind of disagreement arose, and the foreman was beating on the slave or whatever. The slave ended up killing him and was charged with murder. And an attorney James Battle, actually went to court, defended the slave, and got him off. Said it was justifiable. Said it was self-defense or whatever. And so I'm not certain that James Battle is this James Battle, but the time frame certainly would match up. So we'll try to get some more information about that between now and next week's show. But I just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully we'll get some more information between now and next week. Okay, Lee, let's go ahead then to the next picture. And I think we're getting, this is just an old cartoon. This is from 1943. It just made me chuckle, and so I threw it in here. But you got to remember, 1943, World War II was going strong. And this is a Pepsi-Cola bottling board meeting, and the caption, I can't read it exactly. I think it says something about, it calls a gentleman here, he's pointing to his right there, and it says he's got this idea of putting Pepsi into the drinking water to save on bottle caps. And the idea being that there was a drive underway, to save metal for the war effort, and so if they could pipe Pepsi out in the water lines to everyone's home, they wouldn't have to put them in bottles, and they could save money on bottle caps. So I just thought it was a neat cartoon. All right, Lee, let's go ahead then to the next picture. I've only got a few more in this group here. We're about to run out of time, too. This was a plane crash. It was dated May of 1961 in Rocky Mount. And I know of a few plane crashes around the area. I've heard about one out on the Benson Farm out from Battleboro. I think there was one out on the Ryerson Farm. I think Mr. Betty Harrison's husband was in a plane crash out there, in fact. But I don't know where this was. Maybe someone else will remember, but it was dated May of 1961, and it was identified as being in Rocky Mount. It's obviously on the edge of a residential section because there's a couple of houses there. Lee, if you go to the next picture, it's the same plane crash from a different angle looking across the road out into the field. So I don't know where this was, but I just thought it was neat, and I had never remembered seeing anything about a plane crash in Rocky Mount. I was 2 years old when this happened, so I certainly wouldn't remember it anyway. All right, Lee, let's go. We only got a couple more. I don't think we're going to get through them all, but we'll take a look at one or two more real quickly here. This house is identified as the Redding, R-E-D-D-I-N, Redding Pittman House in Edgecombe County. Have no idea where it is. I'm guessing somewhere out near Tarboro, but it just struck me as a neat old house. The woodwork, the porch, the setting in general, it just reminded me of an old farmhouse that I just thought was neat. So I added in the bunch tonight. Lee, let's go ahead. I'm not sure. Again, this is just one I stumbled across on one of these collections. This is actually some light bulbs that were in the old Rocky Mount mills, and someone took a picture of these bulbs and just added them on the collection there. All right, Lee, I think we've got two more, if my calculation is right here. This just made me smile, too. I don't remember this, obviously. This was from the 1930s. But this was a Shell gas station, and apparently they had a few of these around the country. Shell actually went out, built these little things that looked like shells, obviously, and there's just a little office there, I guess, a little store, gas station with two pumps out front. But it was dated 1930s. All right, Lee, we got two more, I think, and it'll be at the end of this group. This is a shot that we don't see too often. This is the old Trailways bus station down on South Main Street. We've seen this shot before, this building before, from a different angle, usually from the Washington Street angle. This is from the Main Street angle, and of course the old water tower in the background there. All right, Lee, I believe, is there one more? Okay. South Washington Street. I'm not sure when this was taken. It looks to be from the 1940s, perhaps early 50s. Dillon Supply there on your right. I'm not sure. I think that might have been the old, across the street there may have been where Rocky Mount Radio was during this time frame. But anyway, Lee, bring it back to me. Folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. We've run slam out of time. I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thanks so much for the caller, for sharing your information, your memories with us. We thank you so much. Folks, have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you next week with more Wayback Wednesday. Good night.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Looking for a vehicle? Shop smart and shop local at Rocky Mount Toyota. Lease a brand new 2020 Toyota Corolla for just $159 a month, or lease a new 2020 Toyota Camry for only $189 a month. Shop locally and get our price match guarantee. We'll match the price of our competitor, plus every new vehicle comes with our lifetime warranty.
Enjoy every bit of your new car purchase with great deals, a ride you'll love, and service to match. Visit us today or shop RockyMountToyota.com.